Abigail Walker, also referred to as Fetch, is a powerful conduit with the ability to wield neon energy. Her life has been difficult, and her only coping mechanism in her brother Brent is snatched away from her, sending her on a warpath through Seattle in an attempt to get him back. Unlike Delsin Rowe, she has no qualms with mercilessly killing people that she believes deserve it. She outpaces and outclasses her fellow protagonists in a short expansion that packs in a ton of action from start to finish. So just how many bodies does she rack up during her quest to fetch her brother?
Just make sure you take care of that, alright?
Fetch's life changed when her powers emerged and her parents called the DUP for protection, but really they just wanted a free longtime babysitter. Her brother Brent wasn't having it and the two of them ran away. Homeless and alone, they're robbed as they're simply trying to enjoy some comics. Fetch, manifesting her favorite psychopathic Culkin, is ready to show the thief what's what, but instead of elaborate jigsaw traps, she takes a straightforward approach with her powers. She nearly earns her very first kill here, but Brent stops her and makes a rule: no powers. Inevitably, they turn to drugs to cope with their situation, allowing all their problems to melt away as euphoria washes over them. Fetch loves them a little too much, so her brother hides her stash to get her clean. But on the streets, it's easy to get a hold of more, so Brent sought to get them out of town and into Canada, taking on risky jobs to earn cash to buy a boat. One day, he comes back all roughed up, which finally convinces Fetch to break the habit. Eventually, Brent earns enough money to get a boat, but they still need cash to live off of and have one more job to pull. Cops begin poking around at the marina searching for a man matching Brent's description, so Fetch decides to break their one rule and shows them a trick. The sudden appearance of a conduit in Seattle sends the police on high alert, but they don't intend to stick around for long since Fetch wants to expedite their exit from the Emerald City. Brent gives her the location of a penthouse containing a duffel bag full of cash money, but inside are some dead bodies and a few Russian gangsters known as the Occurrence that open fire. They definitely don't expect a conduit though, and get their lives snuffed out for Fetch's first recorded kills. She finds the duffel, but man, that scuffed briefcase looks enticing. What's inside? Oh my god! It'll take way more than a few blocks of C4 to harm our girl though, who just needs to absorb some neon power to recover a little bit. Brent saw the blast, and after Fetch's explanation, is concerned the Occurrence know where he's at. So they say something a capitalist would never say about money, and she rushes over there so they can escape the city on the boat. Shit's on fire, yo, and Brent is nowhere in sight without his phone. The sudden disappearance of her big brother sends Fetch spiraling into a panic attack, which is something only Brent could ever get her out of. She focuses on good memories in his absence, but struggles to contain it and accidentally murks this random cop searching the marina. Whenever she breaks from reality and has these freakouts, Fetch gains new powers, which that poor cop experienced firsthand. She searched through the city for Brent and came up empty-handed, eventually deciding to just sit near the boat. Brent's employer Shane pops up looking for him too, and remarks on how the Occurrence make a habit out of abducting his employees. He hits on his sister without a moment's hesitation, and even a vague threat revealing her powers doesn't stop the creep. He suggests she start on the east side, but first she needs to nom on some neon. This sends neon energy all over the city, with yummy little lumens floating around the place and clouds scattered all over that allow Fetch to run even faster. This makes traversing the map a hell of a lot of fun, and is largely the reason for my preference of Fetch over Delsin. The light show attracted an audience, however, and Fetch hates prying eyes, so she takes care of them for 16 kills. Much like Second Son, Fetch is able to subdue enemies, but it doesn't have the same karma impact here. She's not focused on keeping these people alive because she's on a warpath searching for Brent. Most of her enemies die because she feels they deserve it, but there are instances throughout the game where some are subdued. Shane offers a partnership after seeing what Fetch can do and says he has men that can search the city for Brent, but they're gonna need weapons to do that. He plans to steal a large shipment of guns from the Occurrence and could sure as hell use Fetch's protection. She stands atop the truck and blasts any Occurrence that come at them, more than tripling her kill count in just a few minutes as she shows off her abilities to the Occurrence, and even a few gung-ho cops. Shane gets his guys on the streets, but the Occurence are pissed and out for blood. So Shane again asks for Fetch's help to protect his guys, and does so using her sniper ability, netting a fabulous cockshot in the process of reaching triple-digit kills. Shane's guys are too shit and too slow for Fetch, so Jenny, a city worker and occasional associate of Shane, calls Fetch and asks her to scan some cameras in the area. This allows them to track her current movement on the streets as they watch a man stalking a woman and eventually abducting her. The idiot dropped his phone though. giving them a way to track his regular stopping points using the SIM card. So while Jenny looks into that, Fetch is yet again summoned by Shane the Energy Drain, whose men are just so incompetent they seemingly cannot defend themselves. This means Fetch has to come save the day and laughs as she completely obliterates the occurrence for a nice even 50 kills. Her murderous tendencies excite Shane to the point I'm a little concerned what he does in his alone time. Good news is he located the area where the Occurrence are locking away hostages, so he has Fetch right on top of a truck again while Occurrence attempt to ambush them in the streets, and instead all 42 are sent on to the next life. They reach the docks and Fetch begins subduing and killing any of the Russians brave enough to try and take her on, then searching their shipping containers to no avail. Much to her surprise, Brent calls with some of the most impeccable timing ever, saying he was able to escape and is running for the South Monorail station. The DUP finally show up though, but Fetch evades them easily enough and rushes for Brent's location. But as soon as he reveals himself, Shane pops up like a slasher villain looking to use Brent as collateral to force Fetch into doing his bidding. Having hope suddenly ripped from her sends Fetch spiraling again, resulting in a new power that fucks this dude up with a concussive blast. With the Occurrence more or less defeated, Fetch is now under Shane's umbrella, forced to help him gain power in the city or risk her brother's life. He promises to release him once he becomes the city's kingpin though. The DUP are now doing the same shit to Shane's men, so Fetch continues where she left off with Shane by going after their captors. She ends 15 lives for her first DUP kills and releases Shane's useless idiots afterwards. Shane dangles a carrot in front of her by allowing her to talk to Brent, who warns her to leave Seattle before the DUP can get to her. Jenny reaches out to warn Fetch about Shane though. He won't release Brent and will continually use him as a way to force Fetch into doing what he wants. She wants to help Fetch out and sends an app that allows her to access police drones through a live feed. Shane has been funneling cash to the cops to look the other way and can use these drones to track Fetch around the city, so she destroys them, but as she approaches the third location, it's actually a fucking DUP helicopter. She makes mincemeat out of them right quick and grills Jenny for the sudden but inevitable betrayal. Except it wasn't inevitable, and Jenny is just a dumbass, but she has a lead on Brent's whereabouts. Shane has prisoners loaded in cargo containers around the city with his men checking in every couple of minutes. I understand why, because these fools are constantly dying and getting kidnapped, which means Fetch has to act quickly using the neon clouds. She takes his boys out by rocking their bodies with big nasty hooks, but Brent is nowhere to be found in these containers. When she rings Jenny, it's Shane on the other end, who was testing Jenny's loyalty. She failed and loses her life as a result. Shane's eyes are set on the chief of police, who he wants to force into making a deal with him just like the Occurrence did. But he's a pathetic little bitch who can't do it on his own and needs Fetch to assist. There's a huge police presence around the chief, so Fetch causes havoc around the city to lure a bunch of them away. While some poor folks mourn their destroyed vehicles, Fetch is called back to protect Shane again as he discusses things with the chief. This is the closest Fetch gets to killing innocent people, while she does what she can to ensure Brent's survival. After 28 police officers die, the chief finally caves and gives Shane whatever he wants. As promised, Shane provides Brent's location.
It's a trap!
Instead, he locks the door behind Fetch and fills the room with all the gas he built up after a late night Taco Bell binge. This results in another panic attack and a power-up, which ends the lives of the two men waiting right outside the doors. She stumbles out and takes a street nap, and then wakes up with some of Shane's goons standing over her. They're promptly killed, and she takes a headset off of one, using it to track the routes of drug shipments across the city. She realizes by now Shane won't kill Brent if he wants her help, so she tracks these trucks, killing all 57 of his men and even a handful of DUP soldiers that show up to the party, which pushes her kill count over Delsin Rowe's total. She uses a Kamehameha blast to tag each of his trucks and put her own personal flair on it. Shane talks shit like an Xbox Live user and gives his addy. 3 guys outside are killed in a strange sacrifice to Fetch after he was so up in arms about even a single one of his guys being in trouble before. And as soon as she enters the building, Shane's slasher villain tendencies are on full display as he pops up out of nowhere and injects her with a drug. It's fast acting, but not fast enough to prevent Fetch from killing some of the DUP Shane brought here to capture her. Eventually, it takes hold, and she experiences some intense and vivid hallucinations from her childhood, which segue into a section where she's fighting off light figures. It's unclear if they are actual people she's fighting or simply hallucinations, or it could be her brother trying to calm her down, which results in his unfortunate demise when Fetch mistakes him for someone else and blasts a hole through his torso. He stays alive long enough to recognize it was an accident and attempts to free her from that guilt, but nothing ever will. The fight in her goes out, and the DUP are able to detain her without further violence. She's taken to Curtin K Station, the facility the DUP places all of their captured conduits in. The game's story takes place in a series of flashbacks while Fetch tells Brooke Augustine her story. These are split up by training sections which don't feature any kills at all. They use a combination of concrete statues created by Augustine or simulated enemies summoned by Eugene, who we of course get to know in Second Son. After Fetch tells her full story, Augustine has a gift for her. She offers Shane up on a silver platter, and the thought of killing him is so enticing, Fetch cannot contain herself and bum rushes him, and then completely misses and just blasts a giant hole in the side of the facility. As far as I can tell, this doesn't kill anyone, but it definitely KOs Fetch, and gives Shane an avenue to escape. She wakes up and wanders through the snow, eventually finding a crashed drone that gives her some of her power back. The DUP are out in force searching for both Fetch and Shane, who is on the run in one of their APCs. Fetch won't allow the droves of DUP agents to get in the way of her revenge, netting 66 kills on her way to over 400 and making Delsin seem like a fucking chump in comparison. With them out of the way, she finds the crashed APC and a blood trail that's easy to track in the snow. While he pleads a little bit, he's mostly defiant in the face of death and gets punished for his actions. After Fetch is done hearing this fool talk, she grabs his head and burns him from the inside out, reducing him to ashes in the wind. The fight within her goes out as she internally makes a promise to Brent that any dealer like Shane will be eradicated. But for the time being, the DUP bring her back in and she spends her time in Curtin K until the day finally comes for her, Eugene, and Hank to be transferred to the military. Hank's a tricksy little conduit though and busts out, causing a wreck that allows Fetch and Eugene to escape as well. And that's where First Light ends, with her story resuming in Second Son through the lens of Delsin Rowe. A news report details 21 murders across Seattle, which Delsin goes to investigate. Her promise to track down and kill dealers that made her and Brent's life so miserable are coming to fruition. She sees Delsin about to grab some product and prevents him from doing so, which leads to a chase that she escapes from easily. She doesn't realize he'll continue hunting her, however, and gets ambushed on a rooftop, suddenly providing Delsin with her own power. She isn't sure why he's doing this and runs, eventually getting cornered and putting up a fight which she loses for the first time. Unlike other adversaries, he isn't actually trying to hurt her, and instead is going after the DUP and saw her power as a useful tool to defeat them. So she helps him gain control of those powers, and through his perspective realizes maybe killing anyone that opposes her shouldn't be the go-to solution. Except for dealers, who will be treated like scum of the earth and killed promptly. She admits Delsin is a welcome presence in her life and thanks him for being such a swell guy. After a few days, she jokingly asks Delsin why he's leaving her out of the fun, but the wreckage around the city is being caused by Hank, who she doesn't trust and warns Delsin not to either. He does, however, and at some point she's captured by the DUP and used as bait to lure Delsin into a trap. She's released when Delsin and Augustine's fight destroys the concrete island they're on and begins the end of the DUP. Fetch shows up to help Delsin in this fight, earning 5 more kills that we can count. While Delsin goes inside to fight Augustine, Fetch stays outside to fight off the DUP, but we have no way of confirming how many she may have killed or even subdued. So the count ends there. After the DUP is defeated, she joins Delsin in dismantling them and bringing peace between powerless and conduits. And that's where Fetch's story ends. She's a troubled individual who wasn't given a proper shake in life due to some shitty parents that betrayed their own offspring. Luckily, her brother was there to provide just an ounce of stability until he was taken from her. That one action brought on a whole lot of death and destruction. She finishes with a total of 452 kills. Nearly half of them were occurrence though, because those car sequences really racked up the kills. With only one power on display, her breakdown is less interesting since just over 70% of the kills come from her neon abilities, while melee and car explosions make up the remainder of them. At 452 kills, she lands directly in the middle of the leaderboard under Ellie and right above Luis Lopez. Finally, the game is short and only took me 2 hours and 49 minutes to beat, resulting in a kill on average every 0.37 minutes. This is the last entry in the infamous franchise, and I hope it doesn't remain that way. Whether Sucker Punch or another Sony studio tries their hand at a sequel, I'd love to see the franchise come back. And with this series being done, I'm moving on to another beloved Sucker Punch game. Until then, thanks as always for watching, I'm King Deschain, signing off for now.